STEM Day. Welcome to the Space Marketing Podcast, where we explore the emerging space industry. NASA was able to create excitement for the moon launch in the 1960s through education-based marketing initiatives. Today, we will chat with one of the most iconic STEM educators in today's space world. Our next guest is a powerhouse with a passion for space. Janet Ivey is committed to enriching lives of children by developing their curiosity through education, live performances, television, and online programming. She is the host of Janet's Planet. She has received 12 regional Emmys and 5 Gracie Allen Awards for her children's series, Janet's Planet, that airs on over 140 public television stations nationwide. But that is not all she does. Janet serves as the president of the board of directors for Explore Mars. She is an active NASA JPL Solar System ambassador, on the board of governors for the National Space Society, and the education director for Midsouth chapter of NATAS, National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences. Did I miss anything?
You know what? It's like when people ask me, what exactly or who exactly is Janet of Janet's Planet? And I usually tell them I'm an entire galaxy of things. It probably goes more to the fact that I'm ADHD and like to do lots of things, but you more than covered it, and sometimes more busy than I know what to do with, but always with gratitude that I can do so much as far as space education.
Well, I gotta say, you're a woman after my own heart, because boredom is not in our vocabulary, because life is
It's not in
way
our
too
DNA.
short. No, we have to be our hair on fire and doing so many things because life is interesting, and space is
Well,
interesting.
you started to say it's like life is short, and I think, I don't know if it's come with some age, and the older I get, the more closely it's like you see the fragility of life and the shortness of it, and you start to contemplate, your own, like how many more years ahead of me are there than behind me. And, we've seen and lost friends here in the last couple of years. So yeah, it's like, I think I have, and you may have this feeling as well. I feel as though there is this imperative call, like I must be out there helping as many kids as I can get interested, because it's like they need that voice. I want to be one of the voices they hear. I want to encourage others to be those voices, to encourage kids to stand in their inherent magnificence. But yeah, it's like I would be indelibly bored, and it's like when I'm bored, it's usually either I want to like go to the taco bar or watch Netflix. So it's like those are not always productive. So yeah, I like staying busy.
And they definitely don't help anybody when we're sitting there watching, some cooking show or something.
Right. So no, I started Janet's Planet. Really, I guess the sort of germination of the idea happened when I was working for a local theme park here in Nashville between 92 and 1997. And it was called the Opryland Kids Club. And I was performing with and for kids. And there was a costume character and a puppet. And it was a little bit of heaven on earth. My background's a little bit interesting. My bachelor's degree is in music and theater. And so when I walked in to this experience that Opryland was affording me, hey, you're going to work this summer with kids and perform for kids, I still had like dreams of like singing and doing the country music thing. In fact, about that time in 1992, I was part of a group called Summer Rose and Ivy. And we were like basically on the pitch sheets of Mercury. They had just signed like Shania Twain and Toby Keith, and we were going to be this girl trio. And it looked, so I had that going. I thought this little job I'll do for the summer. But the most interesting thing that happened as I walked into that first rehearsal, I was like, these kids immediately rushed up to me. They're all like, 9, 10, 11, 12. Hi, my name's da-da-da, and who are you? And I have to say that it was a moment that really defined kind of like the last 30 years for me, is that I was like, my inner child has just found its family. And and all of a sudden I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm home to something. So when the record deal, when Mercury and Polygram merged, the potentiality of our record deal went away. And the funny thing is, I wasn't sad about it. I thought, I am on this path. I want now to create children's, you know, content or programming. And I started to look around, and this was about 1996 when I was like, you know what? The kids thing is where I think I'm going to plant my flag. But when I started to think about what is it I'm going to do, is it just going to be music? And I was like, no, I don't know about you. Did you love the Electric Company?
Yes.
Ah,
Yes.
it's
Saturday
like
morning cartoons.
Saturday morning cartoons, Schoolhouse Rock, the Electric Company, Mr. Rogers, all that sort of thing. So I was like, I want them to learn something. So if I'm going to do something with kids, I want them to learn something. Well, speaking of Schoolhouse Rock, people always saying the inner planet Janet, she's the galaxy girl. And I was like, well, I can't be that. But lucky for me, there was a parent who was an attorney that I was like one of the kids that I was performing with. And he was like, well, let's just do a trademark search. And nobody had Janet's Planet. And so I was like, oh, I know what I'll do. I'll make it about space. And it's like, we'll look outward only to kind of look back at this precious ball we call Earth. And that was about 1996. And then it would take me a few years to sort of really begin my path on public television. But the truth of it is, when I started looking around and like, who else is doing maybe science or space shows? It was Bill Nye the Science Guy and Beekman's World. And there was not a female to be found that was touting science. And I guess that's really why I started Janet's Planet. I was like, there needs to be a female out there. And so when I look out now and see folks like Emily Calandrelli and Kelly, Girardi and all of these other gals that are doing amazing things in the, kind of space influencer and space children's space, I go, oh, amazing. And so that's exciting to me that it's like representation now here at 2022 is really coming to the forefront. But that's kind of how it all got kicked off. I started working with and for kids and never could give it up.
No, and that last night I spoke at an event, and working with kids is, you know, it the event that I talked about was this one particular cadet. I did Civil Air Patrol, and I put hundreds of flights together for cadets, hundreds of cadets. And it was amazing the transformation that they would go through when they would fly. And it's addictive watching them transform and seeing the difference that you can make just by, even if it's just telling them, you know what, you can do this. Sometimes they don't have anybody else in their life to tell them that they can do it. And that is huge, huge.
I think that might be truly the reason that I love it so much. First of all, if you're in and around kids often, you know how very honest and curious they are, almost like this kind of ferocious curiosity. And so it's like I want to be part of feeding that, curiosity. So this last few days I was out in Artesia, New Mexico, and a couple of cool things happened. And we were making lunar landers, and we're talking about all of the contracts, and it's looking like Starship will land on the moon, or maybe this design, or Dynetics has one, or what about this Lockheed Martin one? How would you build something that could land softly and gently on the moon? And so it's generally two paper plates, a little 3-ounce kind of like bathroom sip cup, and a couple of cotton balls to represent the astronauts and straws and some index cards. And you go, do you want to make the lunar limbs? You know, you're going to create some air resistance and friction and do it like that. But again, I give them the only parameters that the astronauts have to sit on top of whatever their lander is, because that's the safest place for them. They could put the cups underneath to be their retro propulsion. They can build a ladder. They can get creative. They can make it tall, like, you know, the SpaceX one, but it has to land upright, and they can't completely cover the cup so the astronauts can make their exit. And then I let them build. And what I've found over the years, and it's like, and really some amazing teachers and educators were kind of the inspiration for this, that it were really moving towards that kind of like, let me not just be that kind of like sage on the stage, but let me give you enough information, and then let me put it in your hands and you begin this creative design process. So it's going well. I'm walking around. There's a room of about 60 kids, and I come upon this little girl, and I was like, how's it going? She's like, well, and I was like, well, you're on to something really super amazing. Do you want any hints? And she's like, no, I think I'm good. I was like, all right. So I circled back, and she is smiling like everything. I was like, hey, how's it going? And she was like, I just found out how smart I am. And when she came up and dropped her lunar lander, and she had built it tall. And the crazy thing is like she had built it in this artistic way, but it was interestingly balanced with some shock absorption, and it landed perfectly upright. And the joy, watching her joy, is like, it makes your heart expand. It's better than gold and $1 billion, because you go, because she discovered that she was smart. We merely provided an opportunity for her to be on that path of discovery. And so for me, that is so much fun. And then there was this other thing. I had a family show on Thursday night, and we had this moment in my solar system show where we had like, listen to these facts, and we've been traveling. Now who wants to answer the JP trivia question? So it's a way to kind of like keep the audience interacting throughout the whole thing. And so this little kid is dressed in his astronaut suit. And I'm telling you, he walks like an Apollo legend. I mean, he had the short crew cut. You might as well have been watching, Neil Armstrong or Buzz Aldrin take the stage. So I couldn't resist. I was like, wow, he even walks like an astronaut. What's your name? And he was like, Marcus. And I was like, oh no, it is Astronaut Marcus. And so he answers the question, and we celebrate the moment. I give him a solar system book. And before I said, hey, Astronaut Marcus, I'm just thinking of this. You may very well be the first astronaut on Mars. After the show, I probably need to get your autograph. And so after the show, I'm out front selling some books. They buy some, but they're hanging back. And again, I've been performing, I've been talking to a lot of people. And so the mom goes, hey, he really wants to give you his autograph. It's like, oh, Astronaut Marcus, if you would be so kind, before you guys leave, can I please get your autograph? Because, I think you're going to be the first person, to walk on Mars. And so he got the pen, and he was so serious about it, Izzy. And it was marvelous, because the mom, later contacted me and said, you have no idea. He's always loved space. Now I think, honest to goodness, he's going to start exercising like this weekend to become that astronaut. And I've always thought this, and this goes back to my 5th grade teacher, Miss Ernestine Yarbrough Jones. This was the inciting moment on my own space journey, was Miss Ernestine Yarbrough Jones. She was only in her 2nd year of teaching, Covington, Tennessee, Holmes Elementary, 5th grade. I'm 10 years old, and she makes me love the stars and the planets. But Miss Ernestine every Friday would come by and whisper something for your ears and your ears alone. And she would kind of threaten you with like, this is meant for you, not for anybody else. But she would come by, you were really great at your science this week, Janet. Or, Janet, science isn't just for, the boys, it's for girls too. And, other things. And I learned from her that when you speak the most positive of prophecies over a kid, they will indeed live up to them. And so that's been, I mean, I have to really raise her up because she was this beautiful African American lady that brought a telescope to the playground in probably October of 1978, along with Miss Carolyn Davis. They were both in their bell bottoms and everything. And I watched these two really smart ladies show me the constellations. And so for me, I was like, I want to be smart like them. And then in the spring of that year, I was assigned Saturn as the planet to do my report on. So she's the reason I love the stars and planets, and she is the metric by which I present STEM, because she loved first and she taught second, and she was indelibly interested in making sure that you believed in all that you could do. What about you? I want to hear your inciting space journey moment.
Well, and mine is actually coming from a different direction, sort of. When I was 13, I got to visit my grandparents and spend the whole summer with them, and they took me to Kennedy Space Center instead of Disneyland. At the time, not so cool, but that summer was amazing for space. They were space shuttle crazy, and they hooked me on to reading about science fiction, and I came back ready for the school year, and I'd already picked botany as my thing so I could colonize a planet. Well, I got teased, so I put that away and then went into another career, marketing and loved marketing. I helped small businesses. It was great. Well, I started working with children. Well, I wouldn't say children, I would say teens. And when you're teaching them to follow their dreams, it rubs off on you. They expect you to be doing the same thing. And it was through the cadets. One gave me an app for Skyview app, and I started looking at the stars and realizing that there was planets too. And then I had the opportunity to go back to Kennedy Space Center where I went back to school, and because of the cadets, following that dream. And I was standing there at the Atlantis exhibit, and I realized I could combine both my dreams, and here we are. So it was through the kids that I was able to finally accept my dream.
And I think that's a really important story to tell, because a few years back, Vanderbilt did a study that said 10 is the new 15, and that still, kind of like, I guess, socially or through social anthropology, that still girls in around sixth, seventh, and eighth grade will or struggle with deciding, am I going to show anybody I'm smart, or am I going to go the path of popularity? And, I witnessed this on Friday. We had a group of sixth, seventh, and eighth graders, and we were Zooming with astronaut Don Thomas. And again, it was the STEM club that was there. And there were maybe 5 or 6 girls out of a room of probably, 50 kids. Only 5 or 6 of them were female in the STEM club. And one of them says, I just wish there were more girls here. But they never came up and asked a question. And I pondered, I thought, it isn't because they aren't interested. It's because of the same thing that you're talking about. I don't know if I'll be accepted if I show how keenly I am into this topic. So that is one of the things that I found curious during the pandemic, was because we were meeting, having classes online and sort of creating these sort of communities for kids. It's like, it was wonderful to watch how many of these kids are still friends today because they felt safe in sharing what they cared about. But I know another kid in North Carolina that literally has changed schools. He just won Cadet of the Month in Civil Air Patrol. He changed schools. He's going to go into, to an entirely different high school because he was made fun of at school for his space dreams. So I keep wanting to tell anybody who's working with children, it's like, it's time to go, hey, kids, being in the space industry is going to be like $1 trillion to $2 trillion business in the next 20 years. And so whoever's laughing now won't be laughing 20 years from now when you are doing amazing things. But I think that's part of this incredible STEM day. It's like, how do we like say we're going to inspire? And I think it's like everybody has to just put their one drop in. Mr. Rogers talked about this a bit in his book. If you haven't read The Simple Faith of Mr. Rogers, for anybody wanting to work with kids, it's just a must read. But he always talked about that he believed that the space between the speaker and the hearer was sacred ground, that he discovered this when he and a friend, when he was still in seminary, went to hear Henry Nouwen speak. They get there, Henry Nouwen his plane was delayed, so a lay person got up to give the sermon and the homily. Well, in this book, it says that the whole time, Mr. Rogers is going, well, he didn't do that. He didn't do the 3-point thing right, blah, blah. And he's about to turn to his friend at the end of the sermon and really begin his critique, when his friend turns to him with tears streaming down his face going, "Oh, Fred, wasn't that exactly what we needed to hear today?" And that's when it dawned on him that something bigger, higher, whatever your construct is, something truly transforms the message when the intent is pure. And when the intent is pure, then whomever is supposed to hear it, kind of in that energy principle that energy is never destroyed, it's only transferred, that it will get through. And later in the book, Mr. Rogers recounts that he would get notes from parents saying, "Thank you so much for saying XYZ." And he'd go back to his scripts, and nowhere in his script had he said what they wrote about hearing him say. And so he said, I realized then that if I kept my intention pure, that my main focus was to inspire those kids. So that was a story that resonated with me in how we, as STEM educators and teachers and good people of the world, should participate with kids, knowing that there is life and death in our words. And when we speak the most positive of prophecies, they will live up to them. I think the other most profound article that sort of informed me about how I wanted to think about STEM education, or how I could be a small part of doing this work, was a story that came out about a photographer that was in Rwanda at the time of that genocide. And so he says that, they were basically triaging people, and he was weary. He puts his camera up, and where they had basically placed people, that they thought were no more, he thought he saw movement, and then he was like, rubbed his eyes and like, I'm not sure I saw what I thought I saw. He puts his camera up again. This time he knows for a fact he saw movement. So it takes him a little while to convince people that person is still with us. So they retrieve this man and they try to give him like a full cup of water. Well, the man couldn't drink the cup. So drop by drop by drop, over the course of 3 days, they kind of like hydrated this man until he could drink a full cup of water. And in it, this photographer states that he realized that he was never responsible for the full cup, but what he was responsible as a good human for was that one drop. And so that's what I feel like for any teacher out there. I just want to say I bow to you that you're doing the most amazing good work of this planet in the school systems day after day, inspiring and loving kids that aren't your own. So again, to all the greats, all the teachers out there, because I think you're heroes in every way possible and should be paid sums of money grander than any NFL player or sports star or big kind of like star anywhere, because I think what you do is so profound. I have the good fortune of coming in and being this informal educator, doing a lot of fun stuff or doing my camps, but you guys are really the heroes here. But for anybody else who maybe isn't in the classroom all the time, there are other ways, as Izzy is telling you. You can volunteer for Civil Air Patrol or the EAA Young Eagles program, or you can start a STEM program in your community, or or you can start a STEM program in your community, or you can, like, there's a K through 5 school like 5 minutes from my house. During the pandemic, they were overwhelmed, and I would go and volunteer or Zoom with the kids. It's like, do or be and share where you were planted. And I think so many times we think, and I'd love your thoughts on this, Izzy, that I think we want to fix it in the macro, but honest to goodness, a lot of times the needle moves in the micro. And it's the one kid that goes, I just found out how smart I am. Or it was this 12-year-old kid on the spectrum this summer who was like, man, I mean, she was, no filter. She was like, I wish school were more like this. And I was like, what do you mean? She goes, well, at least at this camp, she goes, at school, they just make us like, memorize facts and take a test. But at this camp, we're actually learning how to build stuff and make stuff. I mean, I never thought I could be an engineer, but maybe I can. And so you're going, that's the way we need to flip some of how I think the education system could change. Put it in the hands of the kids. Let them offer the information. Let them put their hands to it, their brains to it. Let them follow some, kind of like caverns and little streams of curiosity. And because it's like they're going to learn more, allow them to be the instructors. I call it reverse mentorship. It's like, oh, I didn't know that fact. Because then you raise them up. And then when you do it for somebody who doesn't get that praise often. I worked with a kid last year. She was made fun of because she was the tallest kid in the school, even taller than some of the teachers. So here she is at 10 years old, towering above most everybody. But she deeply loved, we were making a lunar base. That was our PBL. And so it's like every time that I was near her, I was like, I see you. What an ingenious scientist you are. Now, this kid was dyslexic. She was struggling in some things, but she was excelling in this project. And so you go, it's like, if we just get one thing that she can hang her hat on. So you may be familiar with the send your postcards to space. And what we did is, it's like they filled them out. Blue
With Blue
Origin, yeah, the
Origin?
postcards to space. If you haven't done it, it's so fun. You can download the template, but they there's a side that you decorate. They put their address on it, and then I got them, gathered them all, put postage on it, and sent it. So as I'm putting postage on it, her card read, it's like she had drawn her picture of space, and then on the back of it, I am going to be a great scientist someday. And I just thought, if we can get them empowered, and then we plant those seeds, and every person in the Good People Network drop their good drop and say, here's my drop for you. Go and grab another so that you have a full cup, so that you are fully catapulted into, the trajectory and the best launch of your life. That's my hope. And that's the thrill of doing STEM education and doing it. And it's like, there are plenty of great teachers who do it through the technology lens, or the engineering lens, or the math lens, or the art and design lens, or the science lens. It doesn't matter at all, as long as those, and robotics, and there's so many, and aviation, and all these things. It doesn't matter how you get them there. I particularly love space as that big kind of like gateway to the stars, and looking at what we're related to, chemically, atomically, and biologically to everything in the universe. But that's my hope. And so I guess what I would say to everybody out there who is volunteering for the Girl Scouts, or who is doing, great after school programs, or teaching, or if you're sitting here listening to this going, I've got grandkids, do a science project with them, do an engineering thing, teach them something that you know how to do. And it's like, again, when good adults, everybody starts to invest there, I think that's when we get a robust kind of generation of kids who are thinkers, collaborators, innovators, and hopefully the space explorers of the future.
And that's what I like about adding the A to STEAM, to STEM, it's making it STEAM, is because space is a large arena and everybody can participate. You may have somebody that's very artistic, and there's a place in STEM with STEAM for them. Somebody needs to design spacesuits, somebody needs to figure out the best way to cook meals because that's a challenge up there to have them taste good. So if you're a chef, you love to cook, you can do that in space. There is a place for you in space, and it's just taking everybody here on planet and creating a new world, but it still consists of all the gifts that we have down here.
Say that because it's like, each into his gifts, really. And it's like, you don't have, I mean, when we think about how many like percentage of, say, NASA workers or astronauts, we're talking less than 5%. 95% of those people who work for NASA are the mission kind of like investigators or the scientists or project researchers, and they plumbers, welders. It's like, my dad was a plumber, my mom was a seamstress, and so yeah, it's like we're going to need somebody to sew the suits, we're going to need somebody to fix the toilet and the plumbing and the those kinds of things. So I think that it's like that's maybe also where we can debunk some myths about going to space, that again, as commercial space sort of democratizes that, as we see more and more people like go to space, then it becomes more of a reality, as we see representation like Dr. Cyan Proctor being the first African American female to pilot Inspiration 4. I mean, amazing things, and what an inspiration. So I think that the more and more people see representations of themselves, again, it becomes more a reality. But I think the art is important. Years ago, I got to meet Pat Rawlings, who is a NASA artist, and I mean his art is gorgeous. But we were in a conversation, and he said, when I first started out, I really had imposter syndrome. And I'm looking at his art going, how can somebody who's this amazing possibly feel, less than? And he said, because he goes, I wasn't a scientist. He goes, but the engineers would bring me something and ask me to draw something. And he goes, I would go, oh, let me add a little something there, or a little door here, or a little window here. And he goes, again, that was artistic expression. He goes, and then the engineers would come back, oh my gosh, Pat, we never would have thought of that, but that's kind of ingenious in the way that you did it. And we can incorporate that into our design. And he said, after that happened enough times, he goes, how did he say it? He goes, after that happened enough times, he thought, you know what? I have something that they don't. I see it differently than they do. And it actually is this perfect partnership. So to your point that it's like, whatever you love, think about it. Whatever we need here on Earth, we're going to need in space. So, if you are even a student listening to this podcast today, it's like the door is wide open for you to innovate. You love medicine, we're going to need doctors. We need to figure out how we're going to, kind of combat some of those effects of microgravity on the human body. So, yeah, 3D printing. Yep, we might even 3D print food. So there's so many ways, but I think indelibly, how should I say this? I think art and design and all of that self-expression is indelibly part of this space industry, because when you experience those beautiful images coming back from the JWST, you're going, there is this moment of expansion, like you're standing in an art gallery looking at some famous painting. And then to look into those images coming back from our universe and going, wow, I'm star stuff. I'm part of the same atoms that exist in these things that I'm looking at. So as we celebrate STEM Day, I'm just going, use every possible out of the box idea that you can to encourage curiosity. And if it's design, if it's fashion, if it's sports, whatever, in the next 20 to 30 years, all of those things will be taking place somewhere in space.
And I'm going to add to also inspire those that you are sitting alongside. It's not only the young people that need that encouragement. When you talk about imposter syndrome, I never in a million years thought I would be the poster child for where I am now, especially at this point in my life. You know, we're in our brain, we tell us all kinds of things on why we can't do it because our brain is trying to keep us safe. And if we're not in a place where we have other people tell us we can do it, then we won't do it. And that's one of the things about you is you were one of the first people I quote unquote met in space. So you're moderating a conference, and I think it was the ISS R&D. Does that sound about right?
That
Were you
sounds
doing
right.
that
Yep.
one? It
Yep.
was
Yep. Yep.
during COVID time. And so seeing you and seeing where you were gave me inspiration that I could do it. So just by existing
Wow.
and taking that step out and being in front of that camera, you inspired me to be in front of that camera as well. So,
Wow, that is amazing, and thank you for that affirmation. I mean, I'll be honest, Izzy, along the way, I mean, I think I decided out of a degree in music and theater to come to and work with kids and be it through the lens of space. And when I first kind of met people back in, was really trying to do more than just the interstitials on public television, but really trying to develop more half-hour program, I came and went to one of these conferences and and I had this one guy goes, space is hard. I really don't know how you're going to explain it to kids. And I'm like, thanks for sharing. Then I've had other people like learned and mainly gentlemen or not, depending on how you look at it. But it's like, I mean, literally had this guy say to me, "Are you always like this?" Pretty much.
like
So, like, what exactly do you mean by that? But again, it's like I could tone myself down and try to be very proper. I'm just not. I'm effusive, I'm quirky, I'm over the top, I'm too energetic, I'm probably too much for a lot of people. But for kids, I'm just right. I'm in the Goldilocks
just right.
zone for kids, right? But I think along the way, you kind of go, I could get discouraged by some of that, but talking to Pat Rollins that time when he was talking about his own imposter syndrome, this was back in 2015. And he goes, "You've got it too." And I said, "Huh?" He goes, "I see it." He goes, "I heard you talking." He goes, "But can I just encourage you to not have imposter syndrome?" And I was like, I said, "I keep getting afraid they're going to figure out that it's like, I said, one of these days I'll actually finish my master's in education, but I seem to be on the slow train at that even." And he was like, "No," he goes, "If you are here at the table, that means that you have something that other people can't do." He goes, "Sometimes the scientists themselves can't take these high concepts and create a pathway of understanding for the space curious or the general public or especially kids." He goes, "So if you can see this in a way that you can explain and make, applicable to life in general," he goes, "you got a skill set that belongs here." And it was such an encouraging thing. I will never forget that conversation. So along the way, it's like I too have had people pour good stuff. "No, we like what you do. No, we like how you are with kids. We like the excitement that you bring." And I think, and so thank you for that compliment. And I think it's such a good thing to say that if we're going to go to space, we're going to have to do it collaboratively. We're going to have to do it lovingly and participate like well with one another. And it doesn't ever hurt. It's like when we raise somebody else up, it only strengthens ourself and our own resolve to keep doing what we're doing. So I love that sentiment that it's like as we are coming out and saying more and more about space and being out there in the public's eye, I think encouraging anyone at any age. I'm approaching a birthday here in a couple of weeks, and all I will say is that I will be about 30.2 on Mars. So you do the math, divide that by 637 days, and you might come up with the real Earth age. But yeah, I'm going to be going by Martian years at this point. And I'll tell you even something crazier, Izzy. I plan on going to space. I haven't figured it out yet. I don't know who's going to say yes to a crazy space educator named Janet, but yeah. And maybe I'll even be 40 Martian years old when I do that. But it's like that's my hope. And it's like that's actually something I have written down as a goal. I am going to space. And I don't know how yet, but I think, oh my gosh, with the kids that I have been talking to for the last, nearly 30 years of working with children, not freak out and go, oh my gosh, Miss Janet got there. And what would that say to all these kids across the world that I've talked with is like, if she can do it, anybody can, right? So that's my goal. And even if I don't get there, what I'm really hoping is that along the way, as I sit in my rocking chair and watch, people going to space, I'll go, oh, I remember them. Oh my gosh, I think I had them in class or something. That's my grand hope. But mainly, I just want them to do good, great, and mighty things. And that for me is that STEM equation, right? If we kind of create an experience for students that invites them to participate in space and STEM and STEAM, and then all of a sudden, they kind of have a relationship out of that experience. Like, oh, I really enjoyed this. I had no idea that I might enjoy this so much. So then you've got experience, you've got relationship. And I think those two, if you add those together, that equals engagement and maybe lifelong engagement. So that's kind of my formula when I think about how do we design experiments, hands-on activities, experiences for kids that will create for them a relationship that is positive to an experience of science and STEM that eventually leads them to maybe pursue that as a possible career.
And learn to love learning. Yes, that's a biggie. That's a biggie.
Hold on to your boosters. We'll be right back with our guest, Janet Ivey, and talk about Explore Mars after this brief message from our sponsors.
So, all right. Are you ready to go into Explore Mars? Because I'm really very curious about this.
Sure.
Because I love Mars. Mars was my first planet that I ever saw as a planet.
When you see it and you see it through a telescope, it's like, oh, that's our neighbor. There are rovers roving around on it.
Yes, and you think about how far away they are. And right now Mars is coming back close, and I didn't even know it was coming back because I knew it was on the other side, because I always kind of check every so often on what I'm looking at, and the planets are kind of my friends when I go out at night to walk my dog. And I love Jupiter. Jupiter and Saturn have been great companions this year. But I look up over in the other section where Mars really has moved a little bit, and I'm like, is that Mars? Because it's red. And I got my little sky view out, and I'm like, it is my friend. My friend is back.
No, there's nothing. It's like I love that app also, by the way, and it's amazing. If you guys out there listening don't have it, you can literally hold it up and it will pinpoint, and you can go, "Oh, I think that's that," and then you can confirm your suspicions really quickly with that app. But when you speak of Mars, I must tell everybody about the organization that I find myself president of, and it's called Explore Mars. And again, a path very curious. It's like when I went to my first Human to Mars summit, I went up and met with CEO Chris Carberry and then President Artemis Westenberg and said, "Hey, I do space education, and do you need any help in that regard?" And they were like, "Sure." And I wasn't sure they would call, but after that particular Human to Mars summit, they said, "Hey, what would you like to do?" So I've worked with Boy Scout groups or Girl Scout groups or Boys and Girls Clubs during that Human to Mars summit. And so in 2019, Artemis was moving to being kind of like president emeritus of Explore Mars and beginning to start up Explore Mars Europe. And they called and said, "Hey, would you be interested?" And my first thought was like, don't you guys want somebody with a lot more alphabet soup after their name? And I mean, what do you mean? And they know we like the education focus, and we want you as president. And so the gift of it, Izzy, I have been able to meet some of the smartest people in the space industry that are literally creating the architecture and the things that will help us go to Mars, research, live, potentially, create habitats and settlements there. And just again, to be surrounded by these amazing folks, to learn so much, to learn that it's possible and what's not possible and what they're still trying to figure out. So the gift for me in being in this role of president of the board of directors has been to interact and be able to literally email people that would have taken me years in any other way to be able to say, "Hey, General Charlie Bolden, would you like to come and speak to some kids in South Carolina via Zoom?" And then have him say, "Sure, Janet." Going, "Oh my gosh." So the gift of it has been my access to amazing folks that I then get to introduce to student audiences around the world, and then to be part of our Human to Mars Summit. So big plug here, absolutely shameless promotion, May 16th through 18th, 2023 at the National Academies of Sciences building. We will have what I believe will be the biggest and best Human to Mars Summit since the before, right? So it's like we're coming back. We had our first in-person Human to Mars Summit this year, but we are planning something extraordinary. And again, we have everything from people talking about space food to, the architecture to I don't know if anybody saw this article that just came out, Mars is Alive. Apparently, InSight has had so much dust on its solar panels that it's probably not going to survive unless a big shift of wind, a big blast of wind comes along. But it has registered a lot of seismic activity. So that means that geologically speaking, Mars might be alive, right? So when we start to think about, so we're going to have some geologists talking about that fact, and planetary protection officers and space medicine experts. And the most exciting thing to me is last year we had about 7 children ranging in age from 9 up to about 14 that attended and got to speak. And so we give a great student discount. We're also going to launch the Mars Innovation Challenge in January, and that will be for K through 12 students. It will be an essay about a potential Mars innovation. We're going to give you parameters and explanations for how to participate in that. And 5 lucky students will be flown to Washington, D.C. and have accommodations and attend and be our very special guests at the Human to Mars Summit. So I'm super excited about that.
So it's in Washington, D.C.
Washington, D.C. It's been there for years, and it's kind of like that way on after. It's usually Tuesday through Thursday, and then on that Friday we sort of go up to Capitol Hill. We haven't been able to do that, of course, in the last couple of years, but we'll have a day on the Hill where we pass out the Achieving Mars report, where the best minds in space have, thought about how do the things that are how do the things that are being prepared for lunar, research and lunar living, how do they translate for potentialities and products that can also be used on Mars? Because you're talking about two very different circumstances. The moon has no atmosphere, Mars has a very thin one. The moon has like zero kind of like things there, it's like no oxygen, no carbon, those things. And then you've got to figure out this 95% carbon dioxide kind of like atmosphere. So there are products that can transfer. They're trying to figure out what can we create for the moon that we know can directly translate. So it's going to be exciting. And I don't want to be, I'm going to tease you with just a little bit. If you happen to love Star Trek, there might indeed be an entire Star Trek panel talking about how science fiction is now becoming science reality. And we're talking some big names from that particular enterprise. See what I did there? So that news should be coming out and being announced soon. But again, it's going to be an amazing thing. And for me personally, I have worked with some of the kindest and most wonderful people. And the reason I really love Explore Mars is because I think the organization does an incredible job at keeping at the center of its mission humanity, and how our actions here on Earth and in space, and how that can either, unite us here on Earth, inspire us here, and create something really profound. When the first people put those little red, boot prints there, put their boot prints right there on the red soil. So that's what I'm most proud about. It's an organization that truly has humanity at the center of its mission.
And that's one of the things I've said before, and I'm going to reiterate it. One of the things that I love about space, as far as, when you compare it to any other industry, is the people. The people really care about what they're doing. They want to do it as the best that they possibly can. They encourage each other. And yes, there's always going to be politics when you're working with human beings. That's just a thing. But it's not about the politics for most people in this industry. And that's why I personally love this industry most, is because it's so positive, and it's so, you can be the best you that you can be without worrying about somebody sitting there trying to knock you down. And and I love it.
Agree. I am so grateful for the many people that kept encouraging me. No, Janet, come to the table. Let me, come along for this ride. And the really lovely thing that happened this past May is that I basically took these students around, and we go, hey, Grant Anderson from Paragon, Space Development Company, meet these kids. So they're getting to talk to Grant, who's created all kinds of, human rated systems for spacesuits and spacecraft. And then, and they got to really network. And so for the attendees who are the professionals, they're seeing these young kids be super interested in what they're doing, and vice versa. It's kind of like getting reverse kind of inspired, because they're going, oh my gosh. And I would always say to everybody, this is your pipeline of talent. You want to go ahead and give them an internship now. But I have found in the space industry, and I know there are tons of thoughts out there, well, all the missions should just go to private space and NASA, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, I think what people forget is that most of these private commercial space companies wouldn't exist had NASA not been there first, and or given them contracts, and or had the legacy and heritage architecture that we're currently built on. And so I always go, I don't like what is it? I don't like conflict, and I don't like the kinds of ways that social media can make, all of these arguments, and it's either one way or the other. I think it's really a blend of commercial and private partners, along with NASA, the Canadian Space Agency, the European Space Agency, that it's going to take so many organizations and so much, so many resources, that we're better together. And so I kind of always am encouraging, hey, adults, how about behaving better? Because the kids are watching. And that will
Yes.
inform them. Like, I can't be out here preaching that when we go to space, we're going together. It's space for all, and we'll have to get along when they don't see that happening. But I say for my experience, it's like everybody has pulled out a chair and says, come on over. So, and I think that's what you'll find. And so if you're, whether you maybe a parent of a kid who loves space or a teenager in high school going, man, I want to love space, but I really don't want to tell anybody, come to the Human to Mars Summit. Tell your teachers that, you've got like a little educational thing to go. What do you call that? An educational field trip to go on. If you're a college student that might, be listening, it's like there is place for you. And, think about it. Come to find out what's interesting to you. There's the Human to Mars Summit in May of 2023. There's the International Space Development Conference down in Dallas at the end of May of 2023. There's so many things and places. There's Ascend. I can't even name them all. But if you were interested, it would behoove you to at least give it a try.
Well, and that can segue into another project we're working on is I want to bring that space to the state that I live in. I am trying to create an atmosphere where you can come and just talk to other people that are interested in the same thing. Because that's one of the things that's the hardest part is you start talking about your love for space or what you're working on and you get this blank stare. Well, that doesn't bring any synergy, it doesn't bring any new ideas, and it really kind of makes you feel kind of isolated in a way. So I've created a group in my state called Space for Kentucky that is kind of a roundtable that everybody can come to and talk space. And there's speakers and stuff. And you were one of the speakers for our last meeting, and we had not met you before that, and now we are working on a new project. Do we want to talk about that at all?
I will just give you a hint. Again, this is a wink, wink, but I'm telling you, you're working with a couple of women and another couple of wonderful people who are coming alongside of us that we are hoping to put together for Kentucky a microgravity, a zero G flight, and involve and let it be involved around the Kentucky Derby. And who knows, maybe we'll even take the winning jockey up, and after they win, then they can have a nice parabolic flight. But mainly we're doing it in conjunction with that big event that's full of amazing things. I love watching the Derby, but that any proceeds from what we raise will go into kind of informing STEM education here in Kentucky, that we will give the experience to kids who might not otherwise ever even think about space as a possibility. And I know that Sharon Hagel just afforded a couple of kids to go on a microgravity flight out of an essay contest. So we haven't decided exactly how we might choose those students. We might go through the school system. We might go through kind of a call for essays if you think you would really benefit. But I always operate, and Izzy, this is I haven't even told you about this. I always kind of operate on that thing of merit. You get the great essay and you give those students a try, and then
Exactly.
the other ones you give oh, right, this is a little bit of a lottery and we draw your name and there's a little bit of luck. And then there's the kids that you're going, you know what, you haven't even thought about this as an opportunity, but I see the potential in you. And sort of you give this, it's, merit, luck, and grace. And you're going to come with us and you're going to have this experience. So that's in my mind how we might choose the students who get to go on this microgravity flight. But we're working out all the details. But be prepared that before long, we might be announcing a very spacey event tied and in and around the Kentucky Derby. So that's kind of a funny juxtaposition. You're going, what? Horse racing and space? Well, we're not going to take horses up there just yet, but what we want to do is we want to broaden the way people think about or the associations to space. And it's like, what better event? It's already getting national exposure. It's already super fun. There's a crowd of people. And wow, we also get to carry the message of space to a rather, I guess, cold audience. And so that would be great to like have something playing on the screens as it's building up to the big race, that we could be beaming down some images from the kids actually floating in space, and then they come and attend, they get done with their flight, and then they stand there. So imagine that kind of day. It's like they've flown in microgravity during that Saturday prior to the Derby, then they're standing alongside rooting for these people who have like staked their lives and fortunes on making sure and kind of toward this running for the roses goal. And I think that's really kind of beautiful. So we'll see. We're working out the details. We will update you shortly.
And for those of you listening, contact one of us if you're interested in sponsoring this particular thing, because it's not going to be cheap, but it will be good.
Nope.
And it will promote research, it will promote STEM, it will promote space. So contact one of us if you're interested. Now,
and that's Janet at janetsplanet.com. And
yes.
we can we'll put our emails in the notes, and you
Yes,
can,
it'll
and
be
we
in the
mean
show
that
notes.
sincerely.
Yes, yes. And so look at the show notes and we'll have some other contact information. Like you and I are very active on LinkedIn. So, we'll put all that ways to contact us in there. So what
Awesome.
final words do you want to leave our audience with today? What do you want to leave as a residue for them for the rest of their day?
I love this quote, and I use it often. So if anybody out there has heard me say it, my apologies. It just happens to be my favorite. Tony Wagner of Harvard wrote in his book, Creating Innovators That Will Shape the Future, this quote, that we should let our children play. And in the midst of their play, they may find their passion. And in the midst of their passion, they may find their purpose. And I think that's so applicable to how we encourage students' interest in space. Let them play with it. Let them do some wild mind stuff. Never mind if it can work or not yet, but we don't know, right? Because science, what we know today, can change tomorrow because somebody discovers something at midnight. And so I think that's why I like space and science so much, because it's like it's ever evolving. We're always learning something different. It's not static. It's always kind of bringing us something new that we didn't know before. And to me, letting our children play and letting them create and be innovators and encouraging that will only create not only really engaged kids, but incredibly create the STEM pipeline, because they're over. I forget the amount of jobs in the United States right now that are looking for talent, and we've got to produce that talent. And part of that way to do that is through STEM and STEAM.
Yes, and provide unstructured play. I think we
Just
have too much
yes.
structure that we just need them just to just explore.
You know what? We don't have enough boredom at all, because it's like, because it's like as a kid when you were bored, you'd sit there for a while being really super bored. And then you would
I didn't
figure out,
like it.
I'm going to go create an obstacle course. I'm, out in the front yard. And then all of a sudden you have engaged in hours of play that you created. But I think there's also this thing that not every moment has to be filled with a screen or a game or things. It's like, go out in nature, see and be curious. But I think what you're, again, this whole idea is about giving them time and giving them a safe place, much like your grandparents did. I mean, what a gift to you. And even though you're at it now. That gift is what is one of the reasons you're doing what you're doing today. And so give your kids an adventure that you go, I'm not sure they'll like it. They might not like all of it. Maybe they don't want to go to space, but maybe they're really interested in that geology over there. So it's all about, I will say this, it's a lot of work, right? If you're going to be that engaged parent, teacher, grandparent, aunt, uncle, good adult, it takes a bit of energy, but I think it will, beyond our wildest expectations, pay us back in dividends.
Yes, I agree. So, well, it has been a blast, and that is pun intended, to speak with you today. And I really look forward to our collaboration going forward.
We're going to have a lot of fun and do a lot of STEM good.
Yes, for the whole world.
Please subscribe before you head on over to my YouTube channel for bonus footage. Links to the YouTube channel and other social media channels can be found on spacemarketingpodcast.com. A special thank you to Janet Ivey with Janet's Planet and Explore Mars for joining us today and talking about her journey to space. Be sure to check out her links listed in today's show notes. I hope that you have found this podcast useful for your journey as you reach for the stars.